Good morning, everyone. It's staying cold, so I've got to keep bundled up. Finally, the sun. That's the first I've seen of it. We've got some minor clouds and the possibility of some rain, minor rain. Nothing like our last one. So I'm going to do my first video here in the morning. I got to try to do two because tomorrow's a moving day. My first video I'll do inside of a shelter. Let me get a spot with a view. Okay, come around. Okay, nice big bench. Okay, there we are. How's that for a view? It's still early morning, but it's not too bad. It was in the low 40s last night, but it's just not going up because there's no sun. That little bit that we just saw is gone again. If the sun would get out, it'd warm up fast. I've got a couple of squirrels watching me. They must think I'm nuts. Okay. What I wanted to talk about today, first off, I want to say the rapture is still on schedule. Nothing I say is going to change that because it's been imminent from the beginning. Some of our park caretakers doing their rounds. They have these little vehicles for driving around in, and they drive them fast. We have a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit, and they're driving 30. Oh, well. Anyhow, we've got people saying we're running out of time. Well, we are running out of time, but you can't base that on anything other than looking around. Anybody who's got a date anywhere is guessing, whether it's the date of the beginning or the date of the end. It's all guessing. Now, one of the problems that we have, and we're going to look at it, is the fig tree generation. Matthew 24:32, I believe it is. I guess I could turn there and find out. Parable of the fig tree. Now learn the parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So you also, when you see all these things, know that it is near at the doors. Surely I say to you, this generation will not pass away until they see all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. So we have an issue here of what is the interpretation of that. Where we have a baby shoot of a fig tree and it's starting to put forth branches. Does that mean 1948? The birth of the nation of Israel? And are we talking 70 to 80 years? That's the general interpretation, but what if it's not the birth of Israel? Because Israel wasn't complete when it was created. It wasn't until 67 that they had Jerusalem. And without Jerusalem, they don't have a temple. Without temple, we don't move into Revelation. So when is the time? Maybe it wasn't 48. It may not be 67. It could be in between. It doesn't give us a date. Most people assume that it was the birth of Israel. What about the 47 declaration by the UN to create it. See, where do we start? That's the problem. We are not supposed to know the start of all this stuff. When are we going to get that through our heads? God does not want us to know because he doesn't want Satan to know. Plus, if we all knew the day the world was going to end, some people would party up until the 11:55. So we're not going to know. Okay, so if the fig tree generation is wrong on our interpretation, we can't sit there and calculate 70 to 80 years. Let's go 80 years out from that, 2007. Then we have to back up 7 years for the tribulation, quote unquote, as general interpretation has it. We've got to be in the tribulation right now. Did it start with the big C? We can't be in the tribulation yet. There's a couple of things that are in the way right now. And let's take a look at 1 Thessalonians, where am I at? 5:3. Okay, but let's go back to 5:1. I'm in 1 Thessalonians 5. But concerning the times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I should write you, for you yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so comes as a thief in the night. Well, the day of the Lord is not the rapture. It's towards the end, but nevertheless, it is during that time frame. For when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them, as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. Okay. Peace and safety. When has Israel seen peace and safety? I don't think they've ever seen peace and safety. I think that's something that our Antichrist is going to have to bring about. And he does it at the beginning. I understand that that's the time frame. And he is going to bring the peace that is necessary to build the temple. If they started building the temple right now, they wouldn't get one brick laid. All the Muslim nations, all the Iran central nations would rise up against them, and they'd be in a constant war. And the only way to end that war is with nukes, because conventional war will not work, because they're surrounded. You can't just be lobbing rocks at somebody when they've got people all around you. You've got to take out each person that you're shooting at. And that means nukes. So unless they're ready to go for nukes, they don't want to start the temple. Now they're going to have to deal with Iran before too long. But everything is just set up. It's at the brink, but it's not ready. We can't come up with a timeline yet. Okay, so there has to be peace. There's one more snag in the timing of all this that we've got to pay attention to. You have the two witnesses. We go back to Revelation 11. I'm going to start at the beginning because it's referencing the temple. John is in his vision. Then I was given a reed like a measuring rod, and the angel stood saying, "Rise and measure the temple of God, the altar and those who worship there, but leave out the court which is outside the temple, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the Gentiles. And they will tread the holy city underfoot for 42 months." So we got some timing, but we don't have a start yet. And I will give power to my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. Have you seen the 2 witnesses? I haven't. Who kills the 2 witnesses? Well, let's read on. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 lampstands standing before God, before the God of earth. And if anyone wants to harm them, fire proceeds from their mouth and devours their enemies. And if anyone wants to harm them, he must be killed in this manner. These have power to shut heaven, that no rain falls in the days of their prophecy. And they have the power over waters to turn them to blood and to strike the earth with plagues as often as they desire. Okay, verse 7. When they finish their testimony, which is talking about God and Jesus, of course, the world has to hear them. When they finish their testimony, the beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit will make war against them and overcome them and kill them. Who's the beast out of the bottomless pit? That's the Apollyon. And who does he inhabit? He inhabits the Antichrist. So we need the Antichrist too, don't we? And then he really does become the Antichrist at that point. So the Antichrist is probably here now, working somewhere behind the scenes, not drawing attention to himself. But eventually, when the beast comes, when the key to the pit is open and out comes this beast, he is so bad he's been locked up from Genesis. How bad is he? He is going to become the Antichrist. The Antichrist will be killed by the 2 witnesses. It's one of the kings that dies and then comes back. When Apollyon takes him over, he comes back to life, and now he has the power of Satan. And then he will kill the 2 witnesses. You see this little soap opera that's going to play out? Well, that's in our future. We're not there yet. We're all anxious for God to come down here and rescue us. But I'm showing you that I am camping in winter. I happen to like it, but it's not comfortable at times. The storm that I just dealt with was uncomfortable. And Satan's managing to get his little digs in here and there to make things a little bit dicey at times. I'm never scared, never worried. I call them opportunities. But I'm surviving in this time, in this situation. Now I have beautiful scenery, but I'm covered up because it's cold. I'd rather be warm, but given cold or the fiery pit, I prefer cold. Once I get my son back here, I'm probably going to head south, but I got to stay up here until he decides to come back. I think the end of December is the end of his 90-day passport time, so I've got until then. So probably after Christmas, I think you can go a week into January. During that time, I guess I could go down south for a little while and then come back, which I may do. I have to pick him up at the Atlanta airport. And he gets off really quickly because that's not customs. And he comes back from Peru, he flies into Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I suppose I could go down there and pick him up and be camping down there in Florida. That's a thought. I have to look into that. The only problem I'm going to have in Florida is the problem that I've had the last month or so. That big hurricane did a lot of damage, and it tore up a lot of the parks. So I don't know if I can get in. Plus, where do all the RVers go during the winter time? Florida. But I can go to South Georgia. All right. Don't lose hope. Don't lose focus. Like I've been telling you, to stand firm and to fight the devil. God's going to give him some access to us, not a lot. We're not in heaven yet, and we've got work to do. And we're all going to be tested. That's all Satan's job is to test us. He has no other useful purpose on earth. And he hasn't been thrown out of heaven yet. At least we haven't seen anything. Although in December we're supposed to have, I think this meteor shower it's a bunch of meteors, rocks flying in space, and the earth flies through them. That's what causes the meteor shower. They're not traveling around and coming at us. We're actually flying through them. It's kind of like if we flew through the rings of Saturn, we'd see all this stuff. There's some big rocks in there. But the meteor shower coming up sometime this month, I don't remember when, you'd have to look it up, would be a good time for some angels to sneak out of heaven. We have another guesstimation of possibly Hanukkah by one of our rapture date guessers. A lot of these people, they do a lot of work to come up with these. So the work itself is admirable. The conclusion, we're talking prophecy. We're not talking reading the normal Bible. If you're just reading, Matthew or Thessalonians like we were just reading, that's pretty straightforward. You get into the book of Revelations, into the prophets of the Old Testament, and of course they're quoted throughout the New Testament. Matthew quotes them. Jesus speaking quotes them. Jesus' favorite prophet is Daniel, so he quotes him a lot. We have things coming. We know that we're about ready to, let's take a quick gander at our news. They've done their test of digital currency, and they are in fact using it right now, bank to bank. They're not using it with people yet. They're testing to make sure they can go, across continents, they can do whatever they need to do. Charles Schwab came out and said that, and he's the leader of that three-letter acronym that I'm not going to say, that world group. He said that we need to model ourselves after China, this communist dictatorship, who during Tiananmen Square shot people, who now are building quarantine camps. I think they built like 90,000 of them. And they've actually taken people inside these, put them there, who are dissidents with the big C and other issues, and they weld them inside so they can't get out. That's who we're supposed to model ourselves after, according to the World something Forum, something or other. I don't want to say these words. I don't want to get on the list. And I'm starting to rebound a little bit. I have problems on my account, on my YouTube account occasionally. I don't know if it's, I think YouTube is playing with filters, but I start losing people fast. I lose like 20 people in a week, and I'm not changing my message. And I also have problems people seeing my stuff. I'm not seeing comments. I'm not getting notifications of comments a lot of times. I have to click on the comment button at the bottom and go down and look for people that I haven't. If I see your comment and it's acceptable, I'll put a check mark. If it's personal or I totally agree with it, to the point where I'm going to put a heart. If I totally disagree with it, block and delete. So if something gets by me, it's because I'm not being notified. You're probably not being notified when I release a video. My last video, I accidentally let it go by at midnight. When I post them for the next day. I finish it on like today, and this video is going to come out tomorrow. Tomorrow at 6 a.m. But when I tell it to schedule it, The default time is midnight. I have to change it to 6 a.m. If I forget, you get it at midnight. I've done that a few times, but most of the time I get it right. So if you see it show up in the morning, you're just getting it early. I'm hoping I can get my son back here and help me to manage my social media. I need to be putting stuff up on my Patreon account, which I'm not doing, and managing that and giving perks over there. I don't have the time. He said, well, I have to stay in the Word all day. If I don't stay in the Word, I can't have a message for you. This is, if you want to hear from God, wrap your head around this, The more verses you have in your head, the more verses the Spirit can bring to mind when you need them. I did my drill instructor video a while back, and that was the one picture that I posted. Drop and give me 50 verses. Do a push-up and give me a verse. I'm ex-military. I've been in boot camp. That's the way they teach you in boot camp. To jump when they say jump, or to say how high. To follow orders blindly. That's how the military works. They're asking people to kill people. They're asking people to run into fire, run into danger. You can't think. Well, that's war, and war is hell. We don't ever want war. But if we're going to go to war, we have to fight to win. And we are in a war right now. Whether you like it or not, it's a spiritual war. We're fighting spirits and demons and Satan. Now, we're not fighting them directly, physically. I said no fist fights. This is not a physical war. Now, parts of it are going to turn into a physical war with Magog and that, but spiritual guidance is making that happen. We have to fight our spiritual war with the Spirit of God speaking through us. I'm going to use this example every time I bring it up. Jesus was tempted for 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. He was probably not in very good shape. It says the angels cared for him afterwards. Now, he had to be in physical shape to do that. He wasn't Marvin Milquetoast, like some movies want to portray him. He did flip the tables over in the synagogue. But after that 40 days and 40 nights, that's when Satan came to him. He came to him at his weakest point so far in his ministry. And Jesus didn't get up and fight with him. He didn't argue. That's not what that verse means. He just threw another verse right back at him. He knew the Bible. Now, he knew the Old Testament. The New Testament was in the process of being created. But that's still a lot of books. That's still a lot of information that he had to know. I don't expect any of us to know the Bible that well, unless we're, I'm not a full-time minister all my life. I am now, but I didn't used to be. I spent most of my Christian time working in churches, but not as a leader, not as a teacher. I was also a scoutmaster, helping young men learn how to choose their path in life. And since we were sponsored by churches, these young men would get acquainted with churches. So I've done my works, but now I'm doing ministry, and I'm learning as I go. I'm learning more and more. Now, I have a memory problem where I have a hard time because I don't visualize. So that may be why God didn't have me do that early on. But most of you, I'm left-brained. I don't visualize. Those of you that are right brain, you should be able to draw pictures around pictures as you read the Bible. You should be able to remember this stuff better than I can. Read it, memorize it. They have flashcards for memorizing. I've tried them. I can memorize them for like a day, and then after that they go away. I pull them out again and try to rememorize them, and then they go away. Rinse and repeat. It doesn't work for me. But most people can remember. I don't dream. So reading for me is difficult. Now, we all dream, and I know that I dream, but I don't recall dreams. If I wake up and I'm in the middle of a dream, I might remember one word, one sentence for about 30 seconds. If I don't immediately write it down, I won't remember it after that. It's gone. But we don't need to memorize just to have something to put in. What you put in your mind is what you're going to be. If you're playing games all day long, then that's your life. A lot of the young people are doing that. Both of my sons did it when they were younger, but eventually the older one got serious and went to college. The younger one still has an issue with it, but it's something that helps to focus his mind, and with Asperger's, that's important. But still, you've got to put your eyes on what you want to memorize for the day. And if you only remember it for an hour, that's fine. Read the Bible, then get out and go for an hour and try to talk to people. Use what you've got. Now, I'm a logical person, so I look at things logically. And I have had some issues with some of the prophecy interpreters. The two main ones that I can think of, Brenda and Barry, both are very well-intentioned, very good, but are they right? They've both said they're not prophets, so they're guessing. They may be logical guesses, but they're still guessing. I studied science in school. I was a physics major. A lot of our work in physics is based on foundational theories. What if the theories are wrong? If you make a theory on a theory, then your second theory is not any better than the first theory if the first theory is wrong. We can come to all kinds of conclusions. And Satan's more than happy to help. Nobody's seeking his help, but he's more than happy to inject a little thought here and there to send you off on the wrong direction. Be careful. And it's more important that you're saved than what the times are ahead of us. We know the times are tough. Here goes our guys again. All they do is drive around all day. They're prisoners from the local county lockups or whatever. They're obviously on good behavior with them, or they wouldn't be allowed out here. But they do their work here. This is how they maintain the place. Okay, so make sure anyone you're talking to them about salvation. Plant salvation seeds first. And then you can talk to them about the end times. Everybody knows who Jesus is. In fact, the world's going to get so bad here in a little bit that you're going to find people coming out of the woodwork saying, we're praying for our Savior to come here, come to earth and take care of all these problems. Now, they're going to get them all right. They're going to get the Antichrist. He's going to come down here and he's going to appear to save the world until they finally figure out who he is. That won't be till the abomination, but still, he's going to bring peace. He's going to bring the temple. He'll bring peace enough so they can have the temple. But when he takes it over, that's the problem. That's when they're going to know he's not who he says he is. And he will have powers. Apollyon coming out of the pit will have powers. That's why he's locked up. He can't be allowed on earth until this time. Okay. Stay true. Stay in the Word. Don't give up. The time of the rapture has never moved. It's still ahead of all this stuff. At what point? I don't know. I say it has to do with Revelation 12. That's where the word harpazo is used. That's when he's going to rapture us. But are we going to recognize when Satan brings his angels to earth? Are we going to see them? Are they going to look like falling stars? Again, meteor shower this month. Hanukkah this month. High watch times, but no definites. Just stay ready. Keep your lamps filled. Remember, half of the bridesmaids didn't. That means the other half did. Those of us that are keeping our lamps filled will make it. Those that are left behind will have to figure out how to catch the second bus. All right, till we meet in the clouds. God bless.